All right. Peace and welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, FaraJii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. Folks, we got a lot to talk about. First, let's talk about the latest around former President Donald Trump surrendering in Georgia. I'm going to share with you some of the latest news about this and what we should expect over the next few hours. Also, let's talk about that GOP debate that got everyone talking and possibly a surprise winner out of that debate. We'll talk a little bit about that as we check in with Ashley Banks, the Capitol correspondent of the Griot. And then later on, we got to talk about the fact that former President Donald Trump did this interview. I'm going to share with you just a little bit of the details, the metrics behind his attempt to put out his own narrative on debate night. We'll have that conversation and a whole lot more. Stay with us, folks. We got a lot to talk about on today's edition of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. Let's go. All right, folks, welcome to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, FaraJii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. Folks, we got a lot to talk about, man, oh man. And so I want you to join me in a conversation in a few moments as we are streaming on a number of different platforms right now. First and foremost, you can check us out on our home website at blackstarnetwork.com, blackstarnetwork.com. blackstarnetwork.com, where we're streaming live right there. We're also streaming on Amazon News on your Fire TV. You can find Black Star Network there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Just let Alexa know that you want to play news from Black Star Network, and boom, we show right up there. Also, we are streaming on Plex TV, and you can just search for Black Star Network on Plex TV. Again, 24 hours, 7 days a week, and you can find us under live TV. Then go to News and Opinion on Plex TV, so you can find us streaming there. Now, along with those spaces, you can also find us on social media, of course. We are always on social media as we are looking to serve you in a major way, being a premier digital media space. So you can find us on Facebook as we're streaming there, and all under Roland Martin. And you can find us on YouTube, where we're streaming there, folks, as well. So make sure you do your due diligence to check us out, support us on blackstarnetwork.com, and more importantly, join us in the conversation, because we're on YouTube right now under Roland Martin. That's where you could join my awesome culture crew each and every day. And you could be a part of the culture crew. Just jump in the chat there on YouTube as we are streaming live right now. Now, here's the other thing. We got some stuff streaming on Black Star Network on different ways, and it's okay. You might say, oh, FaraJii, I saw you got this stream, you got that stream. That's fine, because we're keeping you up to date and informed about what's all that's happening right now. But trust and believe, you can be a part of Team Replay. You can always go to our website at blackstarnetwork.com, and any show, any stream that you may have missed, you can go back onto our website and check out all the latest news and information, and just any happenings, any major events, any big moments, and you will not be out of the loop at all. So again, we are streaming on all of those platforms. And of course, as we have our show today, we would love to have your take as part of our online culture crew. So big shout out to the crew. All right, folks, I got to jump right into it, because we got so much to cover, so much. All right, first and foremost, just letting you know that, as we talk about President Trump, we have been streaming this, but it just came out through the wire, folks, that President Trump has now, and his defense attorneys, they have arranged with the prosecutor down in Fulton County for his surrender to take place at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. He was supposed to be earlier today, but some new arrangements have been made, some new decisions have been made. So he is expected to surrender himself to Fulton County authorities at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time as part of the deal that stemmed from the big election interference case that District Attorney Fonnie Willis of Georgia has against the former president of making this particular case the fourth indictment that the former president is carrying. Four indictments have already come down. Three, the other indictments have come down from the state of, from Washington, D.C., and for the state of New York. So the president has some broad legal challenges ahead of him over these next couple of months. But all of that to say that this indictment that many people were counting on to be is like the straw that breaks the camel's back, so to speak. He is expected to turn himself in around the 7:30 Eastern Standard Time period. If anything changes, of course, we will certainly let you know as we look at this again. Another historic moment for a president. No president in U.S. history has ever undergone this level of legal scrutiny as this president, former president, has done. And as I mentioned, I said New York. Actually, he has federal charges in Florida. So I want to correct myself. It's not New York. It's Washington and Florida. And, this federal charge comes along with in Atlanta. It's not only him, but he's been charged along with 18 others as part of the broad charge of the RICO Act, which is under a racketeering statute, which is normally associated, folks, with gang members and organized crime members. District Attorney Fonnie Willis is not playing with the former president. So yesterday, Rudy Giuliani surrendered himself. And Keenan, if we could pull up, I don't know if we can pull up that mugshot. And then there it is. That's the mugshot of Rudy Giuliani. This is what happened yesterday. He had to take that picture. So it is expected, and there are a number of other colleagues of those 18 that turned themselves in, that actually took mugshots. And it is expected that former President Donald Trump will also will be taking a mugshot once he surrenders himself. Now, with the former president, there's a $200,000 bond that has been set. And so you know how the bond system works. This is about 10% of that. And so, this doesn't mean that the president or even his colleagues are going to spend a day in jail, but this is part of the booking process. And this is part of the indictment process there, folks. So this is going to be very, very interesting, to say the least, how this is going to happen. Now, the other part about this, there has been talk about a pro-Trump rally that would be taking place in front of the Fulton County Courthouse down there in Georgia. And some MAGA fans, this is what NBC News and a couple of other news outlets are calling Trump supporters, MAGA fans. They are very skeptical about this idea of having a pro-Trump rally in front of the courthouse because they feel like it's an FBI setup. Looking at what has happened with January 6th, how there were some who said that there were some agent provocateurs that were on the ground on that day that incited what we saw with the insurrection, incited that situation on January the 6th. Now some pro-Trump supporters are a little bit leery about how this situation would happen. Now, whether the president himself has put it out there or he's calling for his supporters to join him or to be there for him, we will see. But you notice that every time every time Trump had to stand before a judge, there was always a group of his supporters out there. This happened in Washington as well. And it sometimes can be pumped up as being this major rally. But it's generally just a couple of hundred of his followers, of his supporters, rather, who come out there and to show their support for their candidate, for their leader. So it is going to be very, very interesting, to say the least. If this is going to happen, this quote unquote pro-Trump rally will happen. But folks are very skeptical in understanding how the FBI moves and how they do things. Some of these Trump supporters are saying, we may not come out there. This might be a setup. This might cause us more problems than we want to deal with. And so we will have to see. So again, former President Donald Trump won't be surrendering himself until later on this evening in the East, according to Eastern Standard Time, about 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And all I can advise you folks is to stay tuned to the Black Star Network as we will do our due diligence of streaming, how that whole process will go, and seeing how that, seeing if the president is going to make that happen today. And the last part about that, if y'all remember, the district attorney, Fonnie Willis, gave him a time to surrender himself. So it's got to happen before tomorrow at noon, which was the deadline for him to surrender. So it's going to happen. It's just how it's going to happen is the big question, but it definitely will happen. Look, I got to take a quick pause, folks. When we come forward, let's have a conversation with Ashley Banks, Capitol correspondent for the Griot, as we talk about last night's GOP debate in Milwaukee and how some folks were expecting some things and other folks were expecting other things. And more importantly, there seems to be a decisive winner of the debate that no one expected would emerge. So we'll have that conversation. And then later on, let's talk about the interview that former President Donald Trump did with Tucker Carlson and how he was trying to rival the attention of those watching the debate. We'll share with you the latest with that and a whole lot more. Join us in the conversation. We're streaming now on YouTube under Roland Martin. We'd love to hear what you got to say, crew, about all of this. And of course, stay tuned. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it.
This is about covering us.
Invest in black-owned media.
Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks.
We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible.
Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
I'm FaraJii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punching!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, FaraJii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. Folks, we got a lot going on right now, and a big shout out to my online culture crew checking in on our YouTube page. Just check us out on Roland Martin's YouTube page where you can join the conversation right now. The conversation is already robust as we're talking about the latest with former President Donald Trump. The big day today, of course, the former president is surrendering himself. And this is a day after the election season has officially kicked off with the Republicans hosting their first debate for the Republican nominee for the president of the United States. And that is quite a big news day, considering the fact that you had these 8 presidential candidates who were looking to differentiate themselves from the former president, while at the same time not say much about the former president. He had a presence in last night's debate, but there was still a little bit of hesitation about criticizing him, about saying anything wrong about him. And even when the question was asked, folks, if President Trump is elected, is convicted, excuse me, would you still support him? And the majority of those who answer the question raise their hand and say they would. Telling, to say the least. Telling. Let me check in now with my sister, who is the Capitol correspondent for the GRIO, and she's covering everything on the Capitol, Ashley Banks. Ashley, thank you again for being with us this afternoon. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. How about yourself, FaraJii?
I'm okay. I'm trying to been processing all that we saw, all that we heard last night in preparation for our conversation. But more importantly, just in preparation of how do we have this conversation and what, just really looking at, okay, this debate happened. It was the big elephant in the room. Everybody knew Trump wasn't going to be there, but there was still, this didn't feel like a starters debate. This still felt like some candidates were trying to just simply get on a team. What was the impression that you got from yesterday?
Yeah, absolutely what you said. It seemed like because Trump wasn't there, obviously he plans on surrendering today, like you've been talking about for the last few moments. Basically, there was a candidate that needed to step up and fill that position. We knew that the debate was going to be a circus, whether Trump was there or not, and that's essentially what it was. There was a clear winner of the debate. That's not a good thing for this country, but Vivek was a clear winner. Everyone thought that Ron DeSantis was going to be center stage where he was physically, and he was going to be the focal point, but he wasn't. He was pretty quiet in comparison to Vivek and Chris Christie. But as we saw throughout the entire debate, Vivek was being attacked left and right. But the one thing that I did enjoy from the debate was Chris Christie calling out Vivek and calling him Obama 2.0. Not sure if you saw that, FaraJii. It's trending right now, right? Where there are videos of Vivek talking about he's a skinny man with a funny last name, and that's being compared to what we heard Obama say while he was running for president, saying, similar language. And Chris Christie is just like, here we go again. You literally are taking from Obama and to build your own campaign, and that's not how it's going to be. And so good on Chris Christie for calling him out. But Vivek looks like he's the clear winner. He's been in the polls. Him and Ron DeSantis have been going back and forth between having that spot behind Donald Trump. But like you mentioned earlier, the one thing that did scare me is when the Fox News host asked everyone standing on the stage, if Trump is convicted, will you still support him? And just about everybody raised their hand except for Chris Christie and one other. But they were also contradicting themselves throughout the just talking about how Trump is not fit to be president. And if he were to become the Republican nominee, that he has no chance of winning against the Democratic nominee, but at the same time, you're supporting him. And so it was just a bit confusing. And like I said earlier, it was a circus nonetheless.
So from your vantage point, Ashley, and looking at, how things have led up to this point, Do you feel like even though Vivek may have differentiated himself, came out in front? I was doing some reading earlier today, and it was saying he's still not the guy to run the country, right? He still is. I mean, he can try to dress himself up in the Obama gear all day, but he still is a neophyte in this whole situation, right? Like, he's still so brand new. His foreign policy his foreign policy stance didn't seem very strong. He didn't really speak too much about the abortion issue, other than what Ron DeSantis and others have already done. And he's obviously a huge Trump fan, really kind of branding himself as this next generation conservative. And even with him making millions and earning millions of dollars and working with $1 million companies, as he said, he still doesn't seem to be that guy. You know what I'm saying? Like, he still comes across as the guy. Some people say he might be a solid running mate. I don't even get that impression. I just feel like he's a guy that just wanted to put his hat in the ring and try to, see how things work out. I don't see a presidential candidate when I see him.
Okay, and you're not alone there. So first we had Chris Christie calling him a rookie. We had Mike Pence saying that he's an amateur. We don't need to train you on the job. You're supposed to know what you're doing. But I saw on Twitter shortly after the debate was aired that a lot of viewers agree with that assessment that you just laid out, and with Chris Christie and Mike Pence. And they strongly believe that he's not the right man for the job. He talks a good talk. He's smooth, very articulate, but they're just like, don't let that fool you. And so that's how it appears. But I do want to say he did give the rest of the candidates a run for their money, because as we see, none of the candidates are fit to be president. And you see Donald Trump is still the #1 polling candidate, which is insane.
Crazy.
Where, this country stands. This man is surrendering to authorities for the 4th time this year after criminal charges were brought against him, yet he's still polling. He's leading in the polls. Please make that make sense. It doesn't at all. But to your point, Vivek probably doesn't have a shot. So I guess we'll see what happens. But he has more of a shot right now than Chris Christie and Mike Pence and Tim Scott.
Yeah.
Not saying much there, but he's polling pretty high.
Well, you know what? And we got to take another quick pause. But when we come forward, I mean, the simple fact is that these debates really add to the coffers, to the fundraising efforts, more so than anything else. It's like, if you're tuned into a debate to hear about policy, you may not get that. But if you're tuned into the debate to see some political theater and somebody trying to raise their funding, with the price has gone up for that person, yeah, you're definitely going to get that. So I think it's going to work for Vivek in the sense that he's going to get just a boatload of new money because of this. But I'm sorry. It's going to be the established politician. I'm sorry. I know this is the Republican Party. So look, I do want to get your take on something, because I think that as much as he tries to differentiate himself, this is a different form of white supremacy, right? That the Republican is trying to show the world. And I want us to kind of get further into this, into that conversation. Folks, stay with us. We want you to join us as we're talking about the GOP debates last night. What did you see? How did these candidates come across? I know that some of you are checking in, some of you crew members, y'all checking in, y'all saying it was a circus, it was a joke. But guess what? Can't deny one key fact. This is actually happening, folks. This is the reality of our political system. And I think we need to have a much deeper conversation about its implications on our government and our lives. Stay with us. The conversation continues on the other side here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
I'm FaraJii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
A lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it.
This is about covering us.
Invest in Black-owned media.
Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks.
We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible.
Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, FaraJii Muhammad. We've been talking about the GOP debates last night. What did you see? What did you like? What did you take from it? So much. I mean, it's a lot to break down and a lot to process, but at the same time, it's not a lot. It's not a lot. And I've been chatting with my sister, Ashley Banks, who serves as the White House Capitol Hill correspondent for the GRIO, and she gives her take on what she saw. Actually, one of the things that struck me was the simple fact that even though this debate presented it themselves, and I'm saying the candidates, you had one black candidate, you had a woman candidate, and you had a man of Indian descent on the stage last night, which was probably the largest show of diversity the Republican Party has done for a national election in a while. There still seems to be, there was still this lack of ethnicity, of multiculturalism that this country is moving to, even from the GOP side, right? So, and here's why I'm saying that. Because as much as Vivek talked about his Indian roots, his family coming over 40 years ago and and all of the, making that, his ideas were so rooted in this old school patriarchal white supremacist type of conservatism, it did not open the door for other minorities to fully embrace. Let's not talk about Tim Scott, because he was damn near mute last night.
He was barely there. Yeah.
So you got that. And then you got Nikki Haley, the woman who certainly had her strong moments. She was like, oh, okay, we're talking about abortion. Let the woman speak. Mm-hmm. but there was still this very, it wasn't as multicultural. It was not as diverse in terms of its language and its philosophy. Did you pick up on that, or was I the only one that thought it?
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, they were all basically the same person with the same ideology.
Just with darker faces or longer hair or something,
So, we are against abortion. We're pro-life. Climate change means nothing. I mean, with Vivek saying that climate change is a hoax, and then you have Nikki Haley kind of acknowledging climate change, but then stating that India and China need to do something with their emissions. And it's just like, you're running for president in this country. Let's focus on some of the issues we have in this country and some things that we can change. Let's not look towards other countries first. Let's look at what we're doing in our systems. Let's play our role and making sure this world is around, 1,000 years from now. But it was very strange, but also not too, it wasn't surprising, not unexpected, but that's the GOP. They're literally one person, essentially, one band, one sound. That's all it was. And once again, as we keep saying, the fact that these people are still going to support Trump shows that, they don't really have a mind of their own. They're just functioning as one entity, pushing one agenda. It's kind of scary, if you ask me, because I'm sure they all come from different backgrounds, given, their different races, and may not come from different, socioeconomic backgrounds, but at the same time, they've lived different experiences in this country. And it is pretty odd to hear them have the same talking points, but that's the GOP for you. So,
what do you take from the fact that during the course of I'm just shifting from the diversity piece to the truth telling piece. What do you make of how that conversation, that part of the debate came up? Of course, there was a little bit of pressure on. Not pressure, there was a little bit of support for Mike Pence on how he handled the January 6th situation. He said that he wanted, Trump wanted him to put himself above the Constitution, and he chose the Constitution. And there was some credit given to him. Mm-hmm. But in terms of the big lie, in terms of this opportunity to come out and say our election system may not be perfect, but the 2020 election was not rigged. Yeah. Like, there wasn't a definitive boundary that was placed out there, and that came up. This thing kind of came up. So what should the American people take from the softness of that part of the conversation?
Yeah, I'm with you, FaraJii. I think he should have taken it a step further, and not just should have. It was his platform. It was his time to do so. January 6th was a terrible time, now etched in our American history. It was a moment for him to stand up against what happened, against this attempted coup, against an attempt on lives, including his, in the Capitol. He should have made a stand to let all Americans know that this was not okay and this will not be tolerated ever again. But instead, he threw out a softball and stated that in 2024, Kamala Harris won't be able to overturn the election. And it was just so random for him to just throw her in there. And I was just sitting there like, Mike Pence, there's so much more you could have done with this. And you actually could have gained some voters on the other side of the political aisle. But instead you didn't. And so I think it was a missed opportunity for him. Or maybe he was right where he wanted to be. But I do believe Chris Christie had a really good moment of truth. I think it followed when everyone but him and one other candidate raised their hand about supporting Trump. And Chris Christie basically said the conduct of Trump is not one that we should stand for. It's not becoming of someone who is running this country. And he stood on that 10 toes down. And I thought that was really good of him to mention that. Obviously, it's obvious, right? That Trump's not a great candidate, that Trump's character speaks for itself, and he should never be representing this country. But I'm happy that he spoke up and said it, because I believe it needed to be said.
Why don't you think more people are pressing the former president and any of these candidates around policy that and this is something I mentioned yesterday in preparation for the debate. Trump is the one candidate that does not actually have, and I'm not saying that like it doesn't exist, but he doesn't tout his policy papers. He doesn't tout the white papers of his campaign. Folks, if you don't know, white papers is the term that within the political context, it's like, what's your stance on various policies? We don't know what the agenda of Trump is. The agenda of Trump is often reactionary to his personal life.
Yeah.
Versus, hey, this is my vision for America. This is what I plan to do about abortion and failing schools and infrastructure, blah, blah, blah. We don't know none of this stuff. It's like, let's respond like the people, the candidates. And this is, and I wish that a candidate would have said, you know, we're talking about, and nobody said Trump. Nobody actually said that. It's like, look, we're talking about the guy, but we're not talking about his ideas. And in order for America to move forward, to make the type of progress, we need new ideas. We need innovative ideas. And there wasn't enough push around that, actually. It was like, yeah, we could talk about what I'm doing. Like DeSantis talked about the things he's doing in his state, but nobody gave like a full, like blown, like, look, this is the vision for America. The Vivek talked about breaking down the FBI, talking about dismantling the FBI in some cases, in some previous interviews. It's like, what are the ideas are not as strong? Like, what are the ideas that you want the American people to embrace? I didn't see it. I didn't hear that part of the conversation.
Yeah, it's because they don't necessarily have to. I just want to go back to Trump. He doesn't have to run on a platform. This man is pretty powerful and he has a really strong base. And so people are simply going to vote for him just because they like him, because they feel like they can relate to him, that he speaks their language. And so in his head, I mean, this man is about to, at 7:30 p.m., surrender to, Fulton County Jail, and knowing that he's still polling as number one. Like, he doesn't have to do anything but breathe in order to win votes. And so the other candidates are kind of following behind the precedent that he's set up and are just like, okay, well, I'm going to do my best to, have these random talking points. I'm going to do my best to have these best digs or the best comebacks and be the loudest. And if I'm the loudest, and if I articulate my thoughts the best, then maybe this is going to help me to stand up against Trump. But they're learning their base, that maybe their base doesn't want to hear policy. They don't want to hear that. They don't want to hear how they're going to put things together if they were to be elected to Oval Office. They want to know, can somebody stand up to Trump? Can somebody be as evil and cunning and cutthroat as he is? It's pretty sad, but it just shows where the mentality of people who are Trump supporters are. And that's what you see there. But there was no substance, no real substance. I'm excited to see what the Democratic Party is going to do. Hopefully there's some.
Yeah.
I mean, we can't promise that. But from what we see, I just feel like the bar is low. We had Trump as president. We have someone who had never held office before become president. And so these folks, some of them have been in office and they feel like, well, let me play the game. People don't want your traditional politician in office anymore. People want your average citizen or, your celebrity or whatever, name it. But anyone who's like not a traditional politician. And so they're playing the game. That's how I see it.
And there wasn't a lot of talk about Joe Biden.
Except for, who was it? Ron DeSantis.
Yeah.
He attacked Joe Biden as much as he possibly could. But other than that,
there wasn't a lot of talk about Joe Biden. It was a very interesting debate. I know we got to take a pause in a moment. What do you make of the fact that DeSantis, speaking of Ron DeSantis, didn't seem to put himself out there? This guy was polling to be like the heir, like he had the momentum. Yesterday, Trump described him as a panicked deer in headlights. And that Vivek Ramaswamy is the standout. What do you make of that?
I mean, he's not wrong. I hate to agree with Trump. But Ron DeSantis, he's not a front man. He's not out there. He's not fit to be president. I think he's good with sound bites. He's probably good with interviews where he's prepared. But when it comes to debating, when it comes to putting himself out there, he's just not it. So it was shocking because I expected to hear more from him. I mean, he was physically in the position on stage to be the focal point. But he dropped the ball. And I do believe somewhere in his mind, he knows that he's not it. He knows that he does not have a shot against Trump. If it came down between Ron DeSantis and Trump, Trump would take that, as we see once again in the polls. He's trailing behind Trump. He doesn't have a shot, and he kind of blew it this time around. I know there are going to be several other debates, but unless Ron DeSantis gets out there, which we hope he doesn't, either way, I mean, the candidates are trash. Yeah.
Here's the thing, and I got to take a quick pause. But for me, when we look at situations like this, and I know that it can come across as funny, it's only funny if it wasn't real.
Yeah.
This is very much real. Like this is as funny as Herschel Walker running for office. You know what I'm saying? This is that. You know, when I say this ain't funny, the man was running for office. Like this is the real part of it. And the biggest thing is that, and folks, I'm saying, without the personalities, it's easy for us to get caught up in personality. It's easy for us to have this emotional response to whether we like somebody or don't like somebody. But when we're talking about looking at the state of politics in this country, Ashley, I think that this is a very, very, very sad state of affairs, to say the least, that even though you have men and a woman who are up there, who have shown that who have somewhat of a resume of public service, that they just do not qualify for the highest office in the land. Yeah. And this is what the party has kind of placed their bets on. Mm-hmm. And this is, and if you're looking at 8 people, at least one should come out and say, you know, there should be at least one standout.
Yeah. It's not working like that.
You know what I'm saying? And this is and if this is the best that the Republican Party has to offer, if we don't know what the Democratic Party, but there's already talk that, you know, it's pretty much going to be Joe Biden again, that there's going to have to be a super strong candidate against Joe Biden for the Democratic nomination. But if we're looking at this is a very, very concerning state of affairs, because we're talking about these guys like they're circus acts and not taking them serious enough, and they're not taking themselves serious enough. They flip-flop. They want to do punchlines. Their policy ideas are just out of touch with the American people. All of this stuff, and at the end of the day, this is our political system, actually.
Yep. No, it's sad, and it's been like that for quite some time now. That's why not everyone, but enough Americans have said, we need another party. Let's try the third party. Green Party. What's happening here? Because the candidates that we have to choose from are not it. You end up just sacrificing a vote or settling for a candidate just because you don't want the other candidate to win, not necessarily because they qualified. I mean, that was the case with Biden and Trump. People simply voted for Biden because they didn't want Trump in office again, not because they thought that Biden was going to be this spectacular leader. It's just they knew that he wasn't going to blow up this country or do something as crazy as Trump probably would. But it shouldn't be that way. Like you said, there are plenty of people in this country that are well qualified to fit the role of president. We need to find them, because the candidates that we have today, like I keep saying, are not it.
It's not it. It's not it. Look, we got to take another quick pause. Ruben Gutierrez, you said it wasn't a debate at all. None of those people talk policy. Yeah. It is a sad state of affairs indeed, folks. Real Brooklyn, you said, FaraJii, we have been political comedy central since Bill Clinton and Monica Lewinsky. Brian Christian, you checked in and you said, will the Green Party have a debate for us to watch? It would be nice if those other alternative parties would have a debate, and so the American people can see that. Lori, you checked in and said, Lori Parks, you said you noticed the commentator from Fox didn't ask Mike Pence any questions about all of those classified documents being found in his back home again in Carmel, Indiana. Yeah. Brian, you also say Christie was just doing damage control for supporting 45 after getting his butt whooped by Roland in that one news commentary segment. Yeah. Hey, look, I'm telling y'all, folks, and we got to take a pause. When we come back, we got to have some different conversations about this. There's got to be some different conversations about the American people's engagement at this point. Folks, stay with us. The conversation continues on the other side. We got a few more minutes with Ashley Banks from McGreal, and of course with you. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it.
This is about covering us.
Invest in black-owned media.
Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks.
We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible.
Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
I'm FaraJii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punching! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, FaraJii Muhammad, and I appreciate y'all for checking in and being a part of the conversation. Man, oh man, we've been talking about the Republican debate that happened last night in Milwaukee, getting some reactions, and I'm getting reactions from you. I'm talking to White House Capitol Hill correspondent Ashley Banks. She reports for thegrio.com, but we're talking about this. And I want to bring Ashley back in here. And I know, Ashley, your time has certainly been well spent, so I'm not going to keep you on too much longer. But it's as I said about the moment when they still raised their hand saying that they would support Trump, even if he's convicted, that it's telling that this is the state of affairs that we find ourselves in here in this country. Lana, you said something that I want to just mention. You said this is a sad and sick state of affairs we are in America. Like, it's unreal. Black people who have been on this land over 400 years can't come up with a candidate on the land that's ours and we own. Sad. How do it? Question is, looking at this is the first debate, so things can certainly change, but it's already a sign of what's to come. I don't care if Tim Scott emerges as the winner of the next debate. You only get one shot. I think we should have a metric that you only get one shot with the American people. That's how critical and that's how urgent and that's the crisis moment we find ourselves in this country. If we watch you on national TV for 2 hours and you don't make an impression, you don't blow us away with innovative ideas, you don't talk about how to take this country to a better place, to the next level, why should we even consider you for the next debate? Like, we'll get them next time. You see what I'm saying? That's the sadness. That's part of the sadness about this, actually. Yeah. Is that, you know, it comes across like the NFL season's kicking off in 2 weeks, right? And it feels like that, like, oh, okay, we lost the debate. We'll come back in on the next one. Like, you're talking about people's lives. You're talking about people's hopes. And okay, you win a debate. Okay, you get a couple of this. Okay. But when it comes down to it, do you not see the state of this country? Yeah. I just, it's starting, and it's like, this is where we as the American people need to step up. Instead of saying, it's all easy to be like, oh my gosh, these are a bunch of clowns. The question is, okay, what do I have to do now to save my community, my city, my state, my country? What do I need to do to step into that gap? Are we having that type of conversation at this point? Do you think that's happening?
In some circles, for sure.
Yeah.
It's definitely happening. But I do think that there are some challenges, as you know, that come with that. It has to be a movement, a huge movement. We all have to be fed up at some point for this to happen. But if you still have the people that are just like, no, we're going to go with the candidates that we have. Why, come up with other candidates? Why choose third-party candidates? Why choose this? Why choose that? Well, traditionally, this is how we've done it. Let's keep going. There are some people who don't want to go up against the grain. There are some people who really are traditionalists and believe that they can fix a system. But the system's broken. The system's been broken. The system was created broken. And so in order to do something about it, you have to think differently. You have to approach it differently. And until we do that, we're going to end up with these subpar candidates, or we're going to end up with these off the wall and abnormal candidates like we did with Donald Trump. He is the result of us having these traditional candidates over and over again and things not getting done for either side of the political aisle when it comes to voters. That's how we ended up with him. And so clearly the system needs repairing, but it's like, when are we all going to stand up and do something about it? Too many people are passive. And it's a pretty sad state of affairs, but like we keep saying, FaraJii, when is enough going to be enough? And $1 billion question. And
when you know what? Here's why I don't think that enough is going to be enough. The reason why is because we are so conditioned to believe that our problems can only be solved by those outside of us,
Right. Yeah. I believe
so.
That.
From the times that we're babies, small children, all the way up into adulthood, we always seek problem solving coming from people and systems and institutions, things outside of us. That's part of the American culture in this country. This country does not want us to think critically, or the culture that I'm speaking of. This culture does not want us to think critically. This culture does not want us to see that within each one of us, we have power to change not just our lives or improve the lives of our families, but we actually have power to improve the lives of communities, cities, and states in this country.
And we see that even with the Republican candidate Ron DeSantis and what he's doing in the state of Florida, whitewash history, making sure that Black students, Mexican students, right, white students don't understand the history in this country, so that everyone can feel empowered to change it, to do something about it. It's being whitewashed. So we believe there are any issues, that things are just perfectly fine the way that they are, that Black people benefited from slavery. There's no reason to be angry. There's no reason to talk about race. Racism isn't a thing. People who talk about race are racist. They're the problem. But like you're saying, we lack so much, first of all, in this country when it comes to the educational system, which stops us and prevents us from thinking a certain way. And so we grew up to believe that we are powerless. But at the end of the day, we are the ones who are voting these people into position. So like you said, until we realize we are the ones with the power, not these people that we see on stage, not those 8 candidates we saw running for the GOP nomination, not the candidates we're going to see running for the Democratic nomination. They have to wait for us to vote them into office. But a lot of people don't think like that. A lot of people just think, whatever we're being handed, that's just what we have to deal with. That's just who we have to vote for. But I do hope one day that we all wake up, FaraJii, and we see that we have a voice and we do not have to accept things. We don't have to lay down and allow things to continue the way that they are. And it doesn't just start with voting for the president. It starts with voting for your congressional members. It starts voting locally as well. Like, I'm at Capitol Hill right now. Congress is on recess, but when they return, I talk to these people and we talk about the issues in each one of their states and how they're fighting, not on just behalf of their constituents, but on behalf of America. And if you're not voting in the right people, you're not going to get what you need. You're not going to even get what you want. So you have to vote. But that's another story for another day, where we have a huge community that doesn't vote. And so we end up with people that we just don't want and people who aren't working on our behalf. And so, yes, it is a sad state of affairs, and America has become a circus. We are other countries, and they just look at us like, what is this, a huge reality show? It's pretty much.
Teresa Kelton, you checked in. Teresa, good to hear from you. You said it is absolutely disgusting and disgraceful. Teresa, thank you so much for checking in. Sandy W., my sister, you said the real loser in the debate is the country, because the party had no plan for the future. It's obvious they just don't care about all the citizens. Folks, what do you do when your own country doesn't seem to care about your interests, your needs, doesn't seem to care about your future? Well, let me just say this. What do you do when you have two parties who are out of touch with who you are and what you believe and your value system? Let me rephrase that question. That's the question that we're going to have to, I want us to keep that question. And actually, I think you can agree with me on this, that if we don't do something, if we don't step in, then it's not going to change, and certainly nothing will happen, right? Like this whole idea, and I'm really, y'all, I'm just giving you a teaser. I'm going to push the hell out of this narrative that we do not have to, as Ashley, you just pointed out, we don't have to settle. We don't. We do not have to settle on thinking, oh my gosh, this is the country, this is the state of affairs, I'm tired of it, this is terrible, oh my gosh. And then we go right back to doing the same exact thing, putting our hopes in the same strategies, the same ideas, and even the same people. And thinking, guess what? Things are going to change, because the last time I checked, when you do the same thing expecting different results, what's the term that's used to describe that type of behavior? Insanity. That's it. It's insane. This is absolutely insane. Let me see something here. You don't like my music. You said join your neighborhood co-op. If you don't have one, start one. It starts with something very small. You don't like my music? You're absolutely right. It starts with something super, super small. Robin, my sister, you checked in. Robin Welch, you said, when we vote and we control Congress, we have a better chance at them hearing our interests. Absolutely. Absolutely. Actually, we got to take another quick pause. When we come forward, I want to shift gears a little bit, because while that situation was happening, President Trump was doing his thing with the interview with Tucker Carlson. And he tried to put it out there that, he's gotten all this attention, 100 million views on this interview. But let me just I'm going to put this in a context, because I want to get your take on this too, Ashley, when we come forward. How do we process that? How do you process that the main guys that the Republican Party is betting on is not even a part of the structure, not even a part of the system that they have set up? How do we reconcile that? Folks, we'll have that conversation on the other side. Stay with us. It's The Culture on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
When you go into a barbershop in a 700 credit score neighborhood, black or white, they're talking about their ideas and they're talking about how they're going to move on those things. You go to a barbershop at a 500 credit score, equal brilliance, but bad culture, they're talking about other people. You go to a winner's barbershop, here's what I'm doing. You go to the barbershop where people feel defeated, they talk about other people, either celebrities or people they admire, but also often, I don't like Joe. I don't like Roland Martin. Well, let me tell you something. I don't understand people. How could you not like anything here you see? You should just be like, this is amazing. It's cool. You may not even like how he does it or how I do it, but it's like, you know what? They're succeeding. They're killing it. All you should be is, that's fantastic. But if I don't like me, I'm not going to like you. If I don't feel good about me, it's hard for me to feel good about you. If I don't respect me, don't expect me to respect you. If I don't love me, I don't have a clue how to love you. And here's the big one. If I don't have a purpose in my life, I'm going to make your life a living hell.
For decades, the tobacco industry has deliberately targeted Black communities and kids with marketing for menthol cigarettes. It's had a devastating impact on Black health. Tobacco use claims 45,000 Black lives every year. It's the #1 cause of preventable death. In the 1950s, less than 10% of Black smokers used menthol cigarettes. Today, it's 85%. Menthol cools and numbs the throat, making it easier for kids to start smoking. Menthol also increases addiction, making it harder for smokers to quit. Menthol cigarettes are a big reason why Black Americans have a harder time quitting smoking and die at higher rates from smoking-related diseases like cancer, heart disease, and stroke. It's time to stop Big Tobacco from profiting off Black lives. An FDA ban on menthol cigarettes will improve Black health, save lives, and protect future generations from addiction. Learn more at tobaccofreekids.org/ban menthol.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol,
we're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate Black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
All right, folks, welcome back to the show. Welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. If you're just tuning in, we're streaming right now on a number of different platforms. We're streaming, of course, on our home platform of blackstarnetwork.com. You can go there. You can support us. You can check out all of the dynamic programming that we have and all of the past shows that we've done, whether it's the culture, whether it's the Black table, whether it's the frequency, or Roland Martin Unfiltered. Doesn't matter. You can check us out at blackstarnetwork.com. We're also streaming at this moment on Amazon News on Fire TV. We can also find us there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We're streaming on Plex TV, where you can find us there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Just take a look at Black Star Network and find us in the live TV under News and Opinions. And we're streaming now on our social media pages of Facebook on Roland Martin and under Roland Martin's YouTube page. And that is where you will find our great distinguished group of folks that we love called the Online Culture Crew. And you could join us in the conversation right now. And if you do want to join us, and if you do want to be recognized and you got something, a little change in your pocket, then I would say throw that in the mix. Support us financially, because your support means everything. There you go. These are all the different ways, folks, that you can support us here on Black Star Network. Go to Cash App, PayPal, Venmo, and Zelle, and just go to our website. It has all of the same information at blackstarnetwork.com. But your support means everything. If you're enjoying the conversation, if you're enjoying what we are looking to do each and every day, and taking our discussions to the next level, then we look forward to getting your support. My sister Ashley Banks checked in. She had to jump off, but she has been doing a phenomenal job writing for the Griot, and she's been working as a White House Capitol Hill correspondent. So we thank Ashley Banks for her time today to give us her insight about what we saw last night. But I already know, folks, that this situation, this conversation about the GOP debate, it can't just be your run-of-the-mill conversation. It just can't be that. I'm at a point now, as I'm looking more, as I'm thinking of reflecting on this, as I'm studying it, as I'm seeing where we are within the culture, that this is something much deeper. And I will continue to use my platform by the grace of the Almighty to push us to think a little bit deeper, but more importantly, to understand the critical nature of the time that we're living in, where we just don't have the liberty to sit on the sidelines anymore. Our country is in peril. And I'm not trying to create no fire and brimstone. I'm just saying it for what it is. We're making some strides as part of Black America, but then we're also getting pushed back. I think all of us can agree that as we take those 2 steps forward, we get pushed back 1 step, maybe 1.5 steps in some cases, right? So when I was looking at the debate, when I was hearing the candidates, I did not hear a plan to save Black America. I didn't hear that. Maybe you heard it. Maybe I missed something during the commercial break or something. I don't know. But I did not hear a plan to save Black America. Now, you might say, oh, well, Black America doesn't need to be saved. We're good. Or all we need to do is open up a business. Or all we need to do is, and I'm encouraging us to make sure that we are crossing our T's and dotting our I's, and that we are really thinking about not just the present moment, but we got to also think about the future. What do we leave our children? What do I leave my children? What do you leave your children, your grandchildren, your nieces, your nephews? What do we leave the next generation coming up behind us? A lot of talk, a lot of ruminations, a lot of thoughts. What do we leave? What can they fall back on as we have this conversation about the upcoming presidential election, the state of affairs in Black America? You know, what do they fall back on? So just something to think about, folks. Just something to think about as we're having this discussion. But it's clear to me, as it may have been clear to you, the Republican Party doesn't have a plan for Black America. The candidates, you had a Black man on stage. And I said it when I talked to Ashley, he was mute. He could have said something. And for those of you who are thinking about supporting the Republicans, that is certainly your choice, and that is not the case. But for all of us who are thinking about getting involved in this political process, whether it's voting, encouraging people to vote, going out and supporting the candidate, you know, that type of thing, that level of political engagement, we have to be very, very clear about our interest and what it is that we want to see accomplished. Because why? We have another generation coming up behind us that is looking to us to leave something, to leave us with something. You know, there's that viral video of Denzel talking to Jamie Foxx. And you know, people put it in a comedic context, and he's like, you know, I'm walking away with something. That's the way we got to be right now. We're walking away with something. I need something. I'm not talking about a very small, incremental reform policy. Y'all know what I'm talking about. The stuff that, you know, like, well, we are like one step closer to getting the vote on fill in the blank issue. I'm talking about something, whether it's an institution, whether it's the beginnings of some sort of political party, whether it's some sort of economic fund, something. And we cannot be so loyal to the Democrats, go in on the Republicans, and we walk away with nothing. We got to have something, y'all. Crew, we got to have something. I'm walking away with something. And if nothing else, I'm walking away like Angela Bassett did in that movie. Man, the movie just escaped me. You walking away from the fire. You see what I'm saying? I'm walking away from something. I'm walking away from this, and I'm walking away with, at least in my mind, knowing that we're going to do something different, something innovative, something that's going to change. Like, we have to walk away knowing that we're going to change this country fundamentally to make it better for the next generation. That is our duty. And we can't forget that, folks. That is our duty. Wait until exhale. Thank you so much, Karen. Remember that scene? She blew up the car and tossed the stuff outside, and she just walked away. Like, look, man, we got to walk away from this fire, man, or we're going to get our asses burned. Does that look like a third political party? It may. It may. It doesn't look like creating a grooming, and I saw a couple of you saying this, crew, grooming a viable candidate. It may. But something has to happen, yo. And I'm not talking about in the next 5 to 10 years. Here's the timeline. Next year. What is a Black America going to walk away with over the next 12 months? This weekend, and we're going to talk more about this, God willing, tomorrow, folks, will mark You know, they're having the 60th anniversary of the Great March on Washington. Reverend Al Sharpton and many other Black leaders are convening back in Washington to commemorate that historic moment of 1963, their Great March on Washington. One of the things that they talked about, and I remember going to the 50th anniversary 10 years ago, going to the 50th anniversary, and the call then was jobs and justice. And that was 10 years ago. That was an echo of what we wanted to get 50 years prior to that. This weekend, we're going back to DC. Along with that was 10 years ago, there was the talk of police brutality. But this week we're going back to DC. Over the past 10 years, over the past 60 years, we can note where there has been some glimpses of liberation, some glimpses of progress. But over the past 60 years, our condition, the condition of Black America, has gone like this, y'all. Over 60 years. You can look at in education, in business, in politics. It does not matter. Our condition has been ebbs and flows. Has our condition improved in some way over the past 60 years since that Great March on Washington? Yes, obviously it has. But have we garnered and generated more power over the past 60 years? Now, that's a question that's still, that the jury is still out on. We've made some gains, but have we garnered and generated power? I'm walking away with something, y'all. I'm walking away with something. We got to walk away with something because this ain't it. Let me take a couple of your comments, folks, and then we got to take another quick pause. Robin, you said when Black Democrats lose by 400 votes, that's on us. When 75,000 Blacks didn't vote in Florida, that's on us. When Blacks didn't vote in all of the southern states, that's on us. I said this again. I know that many of us are huge advocates of the voting, and I get it. I said it before, and I'm gonna keep saying it. What other arsenal and toolbox can we use? We voting. We will vote. We voted for Obama twice. We will vote. But is that the only tool in the arsenal? I'm walking away with something. College electoral votes win, not popularity. Maybe we need to change the system. In a few short days, and I told y'all I wanted to have a conversation about how there is mainstream conversation. There's a column that came up in the New York Times. We're going to talk a little bit more about this later, but there's a column in the New York Times that ran just like yesterday or the day before. And they talked about how elections, as we see it and know it and have become accustomed to, may not be necessary for democracy. That we can have a different selection process that will open the door for us to choose more qualified leaders. What I saw yesterday in the debate, here is Vivek Ramaswamy. He made a point that he's able to, he worked with all these $1 million companies and all of these things, right? Do we need another multimillionaire, billionaire in office? Haven't we gone down that road before? We could say Trump, we can say Michael Bloomberg, we can say other people. Money can't save this country, man. Let's stop acting, let's stop lying to the American people as if money can save this country. America got money. America puts money where she wants the money to be put there, right? We see that with the situation in Ukraine. We see that with other issues. So if you come into the office and say, well, I'm touting your financial achievements and, oh, I've worked with this country, that's running a country and running a company are two different things, bro. That does not qualify you to govern the lives of over 300 million people in this country of diverse backgrounds, ethnicities, and interests. That doesn't qualify you for that. And we, as the American people and as Black folks, we can't get caught up in the money talk as if that's going to take us to the next level, because people with money have come before us, and guess what has happened? We're still in the same condition. So you can miss me with the money talk. I'm like, oh man, I've gotten money. You've gotten money. And if you get into office, does that ensure that all of us are going to get money? That you're going to, oh, it does not. We're walking away with something, folks. Let me see who else we got here. Brian, you said, let's hope this other way of democracy choosing leadership isn't like the Hunger Games or any other apocalyptic future challenge. No, it's not. I don't think it is. The term that they use, I'm going to just give you all a little sneak preview very quickly, then we're going to take a quick pause. But one of the things that they talked about was this idea of sortition. Have y'all heard of this? It's a different way of choosing leadership, political leadership. And it's based on this premise that a lot of times when we're talking about going to the ballot box, a person feels like, and I'm speaking of a candidate may feel like they are the quote unquote chosen one. I'm gonna pull this up, man. Y'all gonna take me there already. Y'all gonna take me there. But I'm gonna share this very quickly, and then we're gonna take a quick pause. It's based on, this is coming from the New York Times, and the question was asked, are elections bad for democracy? And there was a psychologist by the name of Alexander Haslam who did an experiment, and based on from this experiment, it showed that people expect leaders chosen at random to be less effective than those picked systematically. But based upon this experiment that the psychologist Alexander Haslam has done, he found the opposite to be true, that groups actually made smarter decisions when leaders were chosen at random than when they were elected by a group or chosen based on leadership skill. The question was asked, well, why were randomly chosen leaders more effective? They led more democratically. Systemically selected leaders can undermine group goals. Dr. Haslam and his colleagues suggest, this is from the New York Times, they have a tendency to assert their personal superiority, talking about, thank you, Keenan, this was why I got my team. But they talked about this idea that when you choose somebody for their leadership skill, they feel like they are the chosen one, or that they have to assert their personal superiority. And Dr. Haslam said, they found that when you're anointed by the group, it can quickly go to your head, I'm the chosen one. Lord have mercy. We're going to talk more about this. We're going to talk more about this because there has to be a dynamic, fundamental shift of thinking on even how we choose leadership in this country. So as we are looking at the debates and the presidential campaign season has officially kicked off, the fact is that we even have to look down to the very detail of how are we choosing leadership. And if we're choosing leadership the way we have been choosing leadership, and you have individuals who say, I am better than you, that's why I am entitled to be in this position, then you're already creating a rift. You're already creating a disconnect between the leadership and the people because you already believe you're the chosen one. I gotta take a quick pause. When we come forward, let's talk some more. I'm gonna take more of your thoughts. Stay with me. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show, Get Wealthy, focuses on the things that your financial advisor and bank isn't telling you, but you absolutely need to know. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to the show. We have been kind of just chatting with each other, just kind of getting some take on what you saw with the GOP election, with this Trump situation, and more importantly, talking about the state of affairs in America as we know it, the political state of affairs. And the yesterday's debate opened up, it caused me to reflect deeply on where we are right now. And more importantly, caused us to reflect on how we can garner, and more importantly, like how we can gain power, how we can do that in the midst of all of this stuff. All right, let me get some more of your thoughts on this. And folks are checking in. Let me see if I can pull up. And Chris, you know, I'm going to say it to my team because there's so many different comments that are being made. So there's so many different comments that are being made about this. So I want to kind of get your take on this very, very quickly. Let me see this. Here we go. Monkey Confessions, you said we have not gotten reparations from Biden either. At least Trump acknowledged that Black people built the country. That we're talking about building this country up. And the conversation about reparations is still an ongoing conversation. And we talking about how we're going to garner, how we're going to move forward in this discussion. How are we going to do it? Are we looking at the state of California? Are we going to look at what's happening in Illinois with Evanston? New York is looking towards it. So all of these things are happening. All of these things are certainly happening right now. So I want to kind of get your take on that. Let me see here. We're going to take a couple more very quickly. Then we're going to take one more final pause on this situation. Real Brooklyn, you said advocating more voting and or having a third party is what I saw. Is that wrong? I don't think so. I think that we're at that point, Real Brooklyn, bro. I think that we're at that point that Black America can have some very, very different conversations about how we're going to move forward, how we're going to gain power, whether it's the third party or whether that's for voting. Absolutely. So we got to have some different conversations about that. So I want us to think differently, folks. I want us to think differently because as we get closer to the election, and I think I saw a number of you saying that I think this is you, Robin, or Robin Welch, but seeing that we have a limited time frame to determine like what is the best course of action. What are the things that we can do right now to kind of even shift the conversation and put both parties on notice, saying that Black America is not going to just keep going on to get along. That has to be the energy if we're talking about making some very significant change. That we got to put both parties on notice for this situation. Corinna, my sister, you checked and you said, how would it be for us to become the leaders? Big question. Big question. How would it be for us to become the leaders? I've said this before, and I'm going to keep saying this again, folks. When the government doesn't speak to your interests, That's when you and me and us as the citizenry have to step up and fill in the gaps. And we got to do that. And I'm not talking about in some violent, crazy way. I'm just saying we got to get more engaged. We got to get more involved. I'm not talking about just putting somebody in office. I'm talking about creating a situation, a space where anybody who's coming into office looking to serve Black people in this country have to go through some rigorous review, and they have to know that the standard is different, that the metric has to be higher, that this cannot be a go along, get along type of situation. So that is where we are right now. That's what I'm seeing anyway. That's what I'm seeing. Look, I want to take one final chat, and then we're going to get some final remarks from you as I'm looking through so many of your take on this. Stay with us, folks. We got a lot to cover in the final few moments of the culture here on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it.
This is about covering us.
Invest in Black-owned media.
Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks.
We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible.
Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is RolandSMartin.com.
When you go into a barbershop in a 700 credit score neighborhood, Black or white, they're talking about their ideas and they're talking about how they're going to move on those things. You go to a barbershop in a 500 credit score, equal brilliance, but bad culture, they're talking about other people. You go to a winner's barbershop, here's what I'm doing. You go to the barbershop of where people feel defeated, they talk about other people, either celebrities or people they admire, but also often, I don't like Joe. I don't like Roland Martin. Well, let me tell you something. I don't understand people. How could you not like anything here you see? You should just be like, this is amazing. It's cool. You may not even like how he does it or how I do it, but it's like, you know what? They're succeeding. They're killing it. All you should be is, that's fantastic. But if I don't like me, I'm not going to like you. If I don't feel good about me, it's hard for me to feel good about you. If I don't respect me, don't expect me to respect you. If I don't love me, I don't have a clue how to love you. And here's the big one. If I don't have a purpose in my life, I'm going to make your life a living hell.
All right, folks, welcome back to the show. We got a couple of moments left, and I want to just get a couple of thoughts from you as we have this conversation. Again, this is an ongoing discussion. This is not like something that we're going to figure out, of course, right now, even within the time that we have here on the show. But this is an ongoing discussion, but it has to be something that's more mainstream. Karen, my sister, Karen Connor, you said the same call to action we took when George Floyd was murdered is the same action we must have for this cause. We came out all over in all neighborhoods. Let's go. Absolutely. 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 Janelle, my sister, you checked in. Janelle Fields, you said this weekend at the March on Washington, a bunch of Black organizations are declaring issues of concern. We have to get our herd on some type of code and move as a coalition. Yeah. Yeah. And empower us, Janelle. I think you would agree with me on this, sis, because you always keeping up on the news and what's happening. and get us out of thinking that there's just a few that's going to save us all. The few is going to save us all. We got to change that dynamic. So those Black organizations that are going to be convening in Washington for the 60th anniversary of the March on Washington, right? We can have issues of concern. We can make demands to the government. That's part of it. But the real work, I believe, comes from the fact that you got to break people out of this lazy ass thinking that we find ourselves in as Black people in this country, where we believe that the real power is outside of us and that we don't have nothing to offer. That's the real work. How do you make somebody to help? How do you get somebody to see their value, to see their worth, to understand, for them to understand the power, and to not keep looking for somebody outside of themselves to solve their problems? That's the work. Because it's easy to stand before people. And this, when we've done this time and time again during big historical moments like the March on Washington anniversaries, or any type of major gathering of that magnitude, it's good to, we like to showboat and showcase and be out there and say, I'm going to be the next leader. Man, please. We've been down that road before. That's garnered us a little gain here and a little gain there, but the time is so critical right now. We can't just settle for the little here and a little there. We need dramatic change. Cindy D, you said we have been fighting these same battles since the 60s. We're going to stop. When are we going to stop marching? Is changing the policy. People shouldn't have the right to take our culture from us. Black History, CRT. I mean, yeah. That's why I said it's ebbs and flows, Cindy. We make 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 2 steps forward, 1.5 steps back. And then we pass that struggle on to our children. Let's not forget that part, Cindy. We pass the struggle on to our children and expect them to pick it up. Conscious thought, you said copy, paste, repeat. As you were talking to Corinna, you said demands to the governor don't matter if he never feels his job is threatened at the ballot box. This is what Corinna was making. Corinna making this point. Corinna, I know you, my sister, are a huge advocate of voting, which is fine, which is important, which is necessary. But we do have to make sure that we employ as many different strategies, a multi-pronged approach to this, and we got to ramp it up. Anastasia, you checked in. First of all, we need to declare more national lives. We are the only races that doesn't have one, but stop saying you are Black African American. I mean, that's a cultural thing, though, sis. Anastasia, I hear you, but guess what? That's a cultural thing. Is that fight more important than the other fights? And I think, and you know what? Guess what, y'all? I'm a huge advocate of this as we wrap up the show. Which fight is worth fight? It needs our attention right now versus other fights that we can put on the back burner. We need to prioritize the struggles. Because everything can't be on the front. Everything ain't a crisis. You know what I'm saying? So we have to figure out, okay, well, which piece are we going to focus our attention on? Are we going to talk about the name, the terminology that is used to describe us? Is that the essential part? Or is it something else? I don't know. I'm posing a question, Anastasia. So we have a lot to cover, but even more so, breaking up out of this mentality that somebody is going to save Black America. I didn't hear it. I'm going back to my original thesis on this, folks. I didn't hear that from the candidates yesterday. Not even Tim Scott, the Black man on stage, was able to say, this is what we can do as the Republican Party for Black America. That's why I said that white supremacy is a hell of a drug, because at the end of the day, folks, it doesn't even matter what your skin color is, what your ethnicity is, you still negate. You still forget about who you are. in order to fall in line with that line of thinking, in order to fall in line with that ideology. And if you got to forget who you are in order to be accepted, then that is a system of thinking that we need to reject. I'm going to say that one more time as we close out. If we have to forget, if we can't acknowledge, if we can't bring our whole authentic selves to the conversation, and that a system of thinking is predicated upon us denying ourselves, denying our history, denying our identity, denying our humanity for us to be accepted by a system, then guess what happens? We are going to get overwhelmed by that system, and essentially we're going to lose. And so that's a system that we need to reject. That's a system of thinking. That's a system of institutions. That's a system of how we relate to one another that we need to reject. I should not have to deny myself in order to have a relationship with you, in order for me to be heard, for me to be seen, in order for you to take me seriously as a citizen. It should not be that way. All right, folks. A lot of time has certainly been well spent. And I thank all of y'all for tuning in. I want to thank Ashley Banks for checking in as well. Folks, do your due diligence. If you appreciate the conversations and the work that we're doing here on the culture, go to Black Star Network today, blackstarnetwork.com. We would love to get your support. Download the app for free. And certainly we are looking for financial donations, but go download the app for free. Tell your friends and family about it. Post it, turn on the notifications on social media for Black Star Network and for Roland Martin. But your support of Black Star Network means everything to us. So make sure that you do your due diligence and support us today. So again, blackstarnetwork.com, blackstarnetwork.com. All right, folks. I want to thank all of you, my culture crew. I want to thank my production team, my man Chris, Maddie, Shannon, Joel, and my man King Keenan. I truly, truly appreciate them for the work they do each and every day to make this show possible. And I couldn't do it without them. So thank them as well. Folks, stay tuned. Up next, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time is Roland Martin Unfiltered. This is Cuss Out Thursdays for my sister Reese. So make sure y'all tune in into that. And of course, for the ongoing coverage and conversation about what happened last night from the GOP debate and so much more. Also, make sure you check out all of the recent streams. We're streaming a lot of information. Make sure y'all tune in at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. A little bit before, we'll stream all of the situation going on with Donald Trump. But make sure y'all stay tuned. All right. As always, never be afraid to challenge what's wrong. Stand for what's right while being yourself in the process. God willing, we will talk tomorrow as we celebrate the 60th anniversary of the Great March on Washington. What does that mean? What does that look like? How can we use that momentum and move forward? We'll have those conversations tomorrow right here, exclusively here, only here on The Culture, here on the Black Star Network. Talk to you soon. Peace.